Hi, friends. I hope you're all doing well. I have something a little different for you today. I found this exhibition mailer tucked inside a book. When I saw the title on the back cover, The Artist Turns to the Book, and the format of the mailer, I knew it'd make a perfect foundation for an accordion collage book. Full disclosure, I actually made this back in December during my time off. It was originally just a practice session to help me learn a new editing workflow, but looking back at the footage, I really loved how this accordion book turned out. I wanted to share the process with you, so let's get started. For the adhesive, I'm using Golden Soft Gel Matte Medium. A glue stick may not hold well enough on this glossy cardstock, and a thinner fluid medium might be too wet and warp the paper. The size of each postcard is 4 3/4 by 6 inches. The paper is heavyweight. I'm guessing around 130 pounds or 350 GSM, which is the heaviest paper weight for a postcard. I kept the supplies simple for this project, random scraps along with scissors, pencil, and a smoothing tool. You'll notice that I'll bend the book at the folds to make sure the paper holds in place and I'm able to fold the page. As with all my collages, I like to have all three values represented, light, mid-tone, and dark. The values don't need to be balanced. I just want to make sure all three are represented. I also decided to limit the color palette and patterns. I want each section to share these similarities so there's a flow and a cohesiveness to the whole book. This also means overlapping some of the papers across the fold onto the next section, like I'm doing with this black dot transparent paper. Speaking of cohesive patterns, this gray paper with the blue dots ties in with the black dots paper next to it. Also, this dark teal paper is a similar color to the scrap in the upper left corner of the first section. It's not an exact color match, but it's close enough to visually tie the two pages together. When I use transparent paper, like both dots papers, I like to layer it on top of a foundation that has images or text or other papers to add depth. For example, placing this yellow stamp paper underneath the black dots paper will add depth to this section. It's good that a section of the original mailer is showing through as well. Also, this bright yellow paper adds a good color contrast to the design, which is needed along with value contrast. Another element that I like to have in a collage is solid color papers. When a design gets busy with lots of patterns, solid colors give the viewer's eyes a place to rest. You'll see me add more solid papers as I build the collage. I also try to vary the scale of the elements so not every piece will be the same size or shape. It's a good design principle to have varied elements. I'm also making sure to leave some of the original solid colors of the mailer visible as part of the design. You'll notice that I won't be collaging on the front and back covers of the mailer. I'll be adding hard covers to add a polished look to this book. These covers will be collaged as well, which will be done last. I'll add music while you watch me finish this side, and I'll come back when I start working on the other side. I decided to add masking tape to the folds because of the perforations. I wanted to strengthen this area since it'll get a lot of wear and tear from opening and closing the book. In hindsight, I should have done this step on both sides before I started collaging. I'm continuing to use similar colors and patterns to match the finished side. However, if you decide to make your own accordion book, you don't have to design it this way. It'd be fun to treat each section as its own distinct page with different colors and patterns. This structure is great for using up random scraps or even as a daily project. You could use colors to express your mood or record a memory of that specific day. Think of it as a different type of art journal. This black and gray paper with numbers and letters is one that I want to recreate for future projects. I love how it looks when it's torn, so the specific numbers and letters aren't easily recognized. It adds a very graphic look to the collage. I like how this bright yellow paper is not quite solid. You can see some variations where the paint is thinner and the white paper shows through, but it still reads as a solid block of color where the viewer's eyes can rest. Just like the yellow elements on the other side, this element adds color contrast. I'll add music at this point while you watch me finish collaging, and I'll come back to make the covers. I cut 2 covers from a large piece of chipboard that I had on hand. It's thick enough that it won't warp when I use it with gel medium. You can certainly use a chipboard from the back of a pad of paper, but I suggest using a board that's at least as thick as this one, which is 0.08 inches. I cut the covers to 1/8 of an inch larger on all sides than the folded mailer. Just like a hardcover book, having covers slightly larger protects the inner pages from wear and tear. You only need to collage one side of each board because the other side will be glued to the ends of the accordion structure. I'm cutting the papers larger than the cover size because I'm wrapping the paper around the edges to the back, so the raw edges of the chipboard are completely covered. I'm cutting away the corners of the paper so the paper flap will lay flat when it's folded over. If you notice that some of the paper is visible from the front once you fold it over, then cut away a slight angle of the paper to remove the overhang. Apply the adhesive to the paper flap along the edge and onto the chipboard. Then fold the flap over onto the board. You can use a brush or your hand, or you can stand the board up against the table like this to fold the flap over. This method is helpful when using thicker paper. Since there is adhesive on the back cover now, I'm placing it on top of wax paper so it won't stick to the drop cloth. To keep the design cohesive, I'm using some of the same paper scraps from the interior of the book, but you can certainly decorate your covers however you like. A useful tip is to take a smoothing tool or bone folder and run it along the edges. This ensures that the paper is adhered tightly to the edges and helps sharpen the corners to a 90-degree angle. At this point, I'll add music while you watch me finish collaging both covers, and I'll come back to show you how to attach them to the accordion book. To attach the covers, I brought out bookbinding adhesive. This has a stronger hold than soft gel medium. If you don't have this specific glue, any strong liquid glue or high-tack double-sided tape will work. Lay the cover on a piece of wax paper large enough to wrap around the whole book. You'll need this for pressing later. Apply a generous amount of glue to the back of the cover, but leave 1/8 of an inch unglued around all 4 edges. Because the accordion book is smaller than the cover by this amount, we don't want glue seeping out onto the exposed edges. If that happens, just take a paper towel and wipe it off. Use a brush to spread the glue evenly. Then line up the first section of the accordion book onto the glued cover. Once it's aligned, fold the wax paper over and place a heavy book on top. This keeps everything in place while the glue sets. I recommend leaving it under the book overnight. Repeat these steps for the other cover. Here is the completed accordion book. It was a fun project to make. I encourage you to look for other foundations for your collages besides sketchbooks or a flat piece of paper or a stretched canvas. Let me know if you have any questions. Thanks for watching. Take care.